Welcome to the Creator Podcast, where we explore the limitless potential of the human spirit. This podcast is all about reminding individuals of their innate ability to create and manifest their dreams in all aspects of life, from personal growth and relationships to business and entrepreneurship. As human beings, we have been gifted with the power of creativity and imagination, and it is our mission to help you tap into that power and unleash your full potential. Join us as we embark on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and inspiration. Let's unlock the creator within.
Welcome to the Creator Podcast. I'm super excited to be here with you today, and I cannot wait to talk and share today's story about a client of ours that came through, and the breakthrough that he had was monumental. So I just want to jump right in and first tell you thank you so much for listening. It is always great to jump on every single day and to share some of the amazing stories, and I just appreciate your support. So today I want to share a story about a particular client, and I really want you to hone in on this because I found some huge insight personally on myself. This particular client grew up where commitments were not made in his house. I mean, he had a father and a mother that would make a commitment, not really keep the commitment, and it really started to affect him. He had friends that didn't keep their commitments, and ultimately he found himself frustrated and told me before he signed up for coaching that he wasn't sure this was going to work because he's not committed to himself. And so what was interesting as we were diving through some of these things is we started to talk a little bit more about commitment. And I asked him, well, when's the last time you kept a commitment to yourself? And he said, I can't remember. It's an interesting response, right? And we started talking. Okay, so what do you like doing? Oh, I don't have time to do stuff for myself. Oh, okay. Why is that? Well, I'm an entrepreneur. I have my own business. I have a family, and I have a spouse. Okay. What about your friends? Do you get out with your friends much? No, there's just a lot of expectations, but I really don't get out a lot because there's more expectations at home. And so I started asking him, well, what do you do in general? And his response was, well, most of the time we don't do anything, or it feels like we don't do anything. It's just a bunch of busy work. It was very, very interesting to sit and talk to him and to learn more about his model of the world. Now, as we went through, one of the exercises I had him do was write down 100 things that he wanted. If money was not an issue, 100 things. And I've mentioned this on the podcast before. This particular practice has a huge, powerful effect on people. And that was one of the first things that we had him do. So he starts writing things down. And as he's writing down these ideas, he hits me up the next day and he's like, I'm really motivated by a particular item on my list. Now, I'm not going to say what it was. It's not very important. But he said, I'm really motivated by a particular item. I said, interesting. Like, what makes it so motivating? And he's like, I don't really know. I just want it. I said, are you going to commit to yourself to go get it? And he said, I guess I am committed to myself. Because, I'm going to go get it. I'm actually going to go get it today because it's not that expensive, but I want it. I didn't realize how badly I wanted it. So he got up and went over and bought this item. He made a commitment to himself, and then he internalized, I actually did this. So let's talk about commitments for a moment. This happened to me this morning. My son was committed to candy. He wanted his candy. And what he ended up doing is he ate his food in order to have his candy. He wasn't going to eat his food this morning. Now, my son also is notorious for wanting candy and not eating his food, but rather throwing a massive temper tantrum because he wants his candy now. And if he doesn't get the candy, then he gives us all sorts of feedback. But what are we motivated by to keep commitments to ourselves? You see, if I had asked you right now as a listener what it is you want, you may have a very specific thing, but do you have many things? What if there's something that you're not considering that actually motivates you to a higher level? Show up every single day, to do certain things that you would not normally do. What if you're dealing with weight issues right now and there was something that motivated you enough to lose the weight because all the other efforts and energy you've put into losing this weight wasn't sufficient? But what if there was something higher for you? What if there was something higher in your relationship that you were unaware of that could make your marriage or your relationship with your children that much better? You see, I'm going to venture to say that most of the time, the reason why we feel the feedback and experiences that we have, or we feel like we can't meet everyone's expectations, or that there's just a lot going on and we feel frustrated, is because we don't really know what it is we want and we're not working towards the things we want. I mean, think about it. If you're hungry, you know you want food. So would it be harder for me to say, hey, we're going to stop here, do this huge community service project, and then after we'll get food? Or is it easier for me to say, hey, let's go get food, and then while you're eating and replenishing that motivation, I say, hey, let's after this jump over and do a community service project? Which one's more encouraging and inspiring? You see, when you get the thing you want, the very thing you want, you're easily motivated to do more. And some things that are a bigger deal may not actually seem to be a bigger deal. Now let's tie that into business for a moment. What if you got a reward, like we talked about on a previous episode, and that reward gave you so much energy that you actually wanted to do certain aspects of your business you'd never considered, or something you didn't really like? What if you just started doing it because the reward inspired and motivated you to do it? Even though you've written down the same thing over and over and over in your book, your journal, whatever it is to keep yourself organized in your phone, you've written down the same thing every single day, but you don't seem to do it because you're not committed to yourself. Maybe there's something there that when you unlock it, you'll find that the commitment, all it had to be done is find a higher purpose or understand the intention of why you're doing what you're doing. Maybe things have more energy. I'll share another story. One particular individual had issues with weight. He tried a lot of different things. He'd go to the store, he'd buy all the supplements, he'd spend a lot of money, and that would make him feel good and motivated for about 2 weeks. But then after 2 weeks of eating right, he found himself going back to the same old habits. The supplements would sit in the cabinet. The protein would get old. He'd throw it away. He'd get frustrated with himself, and then he'd start over again. So he'd go buy some more protein and be in a habit loop in essence. And so he wasn't really motivated enough. So we sat down and we said, okay, what would be extremely motivating for you? What would be something that would encourage you to do something different? Said, how about instead of the $200 you'd spend in supplements, why don't you go put a deposit down on a cruise? Would that be motivating enough? And what we found was this individual, instead of buying the supplements, went and put the $200 down on a cruise, a non-refundable deposit, and started visualizing himself in the very best shape possible on this cruise. So what happened? Well, it was motivating enough. You see, the supplements were not motivating enough for him to lose the weight. It was just a temporary feeling. But what was motivating was a vacation with his family, a vacation that he wanted to go on. And so what happened is when he decided to make that commitment, then he realized, you know what? I actually did something for myself. I'm going to go to the gym. Gentleman lost quite a bit of weight. I'm here to tell you that a lot of the reasons why you feel unmotivated to show up to events, to show up to parties, to go to family environments is not because of the people in that environment. It's not because there's all these expectations. It's because you're not fulfilling the expectations you want for yourself. And in some cases, you don't even know what you want for yourself. You just feel like everyone else wants you to do all this stuff for them. But you're not doing anything for you. The things you truly desire, you don't even know what it is in some cases. And so you're neglecting yourself. So then I'm here to ask you, how could you serve your neighbor to the fullest? How could you love your neighbor if you don't love yourself? How could you go and do anything for your neighbor, and yet the same thing you do for your neighbor, you can't do for you? Would you pay for your neighbor to go on a vacation? Probably not. But why are some of you doing things for other people that you wouldn't even do for yourself because you feel guilty? And that's a question you got to ask yourself. So how do we fix this? Well, I'd first encourage you to get very familiar with the things you want. Maybe there's some experiences in your life. Maybe there's some tangible items that you want. Get familiar. What would your life be like? If money wasn't a resource, get it all out of there, out of your mind for a minute and just dream. What is that one thing that motivates you every single day? You know, I could talk to someone and say, listen, if you wanted to be a magician and that was everything you wanted, then why aren't you going after being a magician? Why wouldn't you give yourself that opportunity? Now, some people would say, well, because they don't make enough money. And I would go back and say, well, no, if you're very passionate about it, you can make a lot of money being a magician, right? There's people in Vegas making millions of dollars doing something. So then the real question is, why aren't you doing it? And there will always be these limiting beliefs around it. No money, no time, no energy. But what if you actually gave yourself that permission to do the very thing you loved? Wouldn't you be a happier person anyways? Wouldn't you show up to work with more energy? Because you are doing the very thing you love, as opposed to running away from the thing you love and finding something that doesn't really satisfy you. These are questions you've got to ask yourself. If you truly wanted to be a magician, then why are you working somewhere else? Why are you coding computers? Now, I'm not knocking on anyone, but that's the real question, is if you truly wanted to do this, why aren't you following your passion, your dream to do it? And examine the question and examine the answers that come to your mind. No money. Oh, my spouse wouldn't be on board. Oh, my family would think I'm crazy. Oh, I'm not a good enough magician. And you need to start examining what those thoughts are and why. Because ultimately, those are the things that are keeping you from being the most happy and the most complete. Those are the things that are keeping you from being committed to yourself, because the very thing that rips apart your soul internally and is telling you to do, you're neglecting. So everything else is smaller. So why not neglect everything else? Why not neglect going to a family party? Why not neglect showing up to the gym? Why not neglect your spouse's needs because your needs aren't being fulfilled? Everything else is lesser. So you have to go after the thing you truly, truly desire. It's no one else's fault. It's the person looking in the mirror. You. And it's all the stories you tell yourself of why you can't do what you want to do. But I promise you, once you commit to that great intention, that great purpose, all the other micro commitments start to be fulfilled because you're the happiest person ever. Because you're doing the thing you want. And I can tell you that countless and countless times with people who have come to this coaching, entrepreneurs that have finally said, you know what, I'm going to quit this W-2 job and do the thing I truly desire. And I'm not going to worry about the money. I'm not going to worry about the stress. And ironically, these are some of the most successful and wealthy people in the world. Just want to say thank you so much for listening to the Creator Podcast. I hope that this struck an emotional chord with you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.
Thank you for tuning in to the Creator Podcast. We hope that you found inspiration and insight into your own creative potential. Remember that you are capable of achieving greatness in all areas of your life and that the power to create lies within you. We encourage you to take action on your dreams and to never give up on your journey towards success. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and share with your friends and family. And as always, keep creating and never stop exploring the endless possibilities of what you can achieve. Until next time, this is the Creator Podcast signing off.